Wagwan. My name is Vivian. Let's get right into it. Clearly, this is going to be about the 2024 United States elections. So I want to start by saying that today is Thursday, November 7th, that the elections were on Tuesday, and we have a result, and we will be having a president. So first, I want to say that the book and the suggested reading for this conversation is Afro-pessimism by Frank B Wilderson III, and that I'll be kind of breaking it down a little bit through this conversation. In case you missed it, again, 2024 elections, presidential elections just happened. Kamala Harris, who was the incumbent vice president, to Joe Biden, lost to Donald Trump. Shorty got washed. So I guess two things I want to say. Shorty got washed, and thanks Obama. If I wanted to, I would end the video right there, but I don't want to. Okay, so Kamala Harris again was the vice president for Joe Biden. For those who don't know, she ran in 2020 but had to drop out because of lack of funds. She didn't make it to the 2020 presidential election. She dropped out because she didn't have enough money to keep going. And so in that context, right, as Joe Biden's vice president, she was chosen. He got the nomination. She was chosen for identity politics reasons. She is the first, not only woman vice president in the history of the United States, but she is, como se dice, a black woman. She is a South Asian woman. All of those things. Democratic Party, instead of taking that opportunity to really feel it out, check the vibes, and ask people what they wanted, they said, all right, we'll give you Kamala because she's black and she's a woman and she's South Asian and she's the vice president, so she's gonna win. So there's that. You know, we have the biracial woman vice president who's pandering. In my opinion, I also want to say this is my opinion. Or so why I say thanks Obama was when Obama had the chance, the first and last chance. I didn't say that though. J. Cole said it. Of being the first and last chance of having a black presidency, he didn't use it to his fullest advantage. He didn't go as far as he could have because they hated him already, and that's where Afro-pessimism comes in. The premise of the book, even in the phrase Afro-pessimism, basically in this book, Frank B Wilderson III, postulates that a couple things. First and foremost, that slavery was not merely a historical event in America specifically, but it is instead a relational dynamic between all black people globally and white and non-white, non-black. He calls them white people's junior partners, is what he says in the book, is how he phrases it. But this is a relational dynamic, that in every situation where there is a black person and a non-black person, that the black person is always occupying and can never escape the role of the quote-unquote slave, right? Okay. And that this role and this relation between black people and non-black people is a global dynamic that not only this is the second part of the book, right? That every aspect of, or more so, the very foundation, the nature of blackness is of being black. Whether it's here, in Europe, in Australia, in the Caribbean, in South America, in North America, in Europe, wherever you go, is that you are black, and so there is an element of violence that you will be subjected to because of this relational dynamic and black people's inability to ever be anything other than relationally, even though slavery ended, which 13th Amendment, but anyways, relationally, black people are always slaves. No matter what's happening, the reason why the black experience is the black experience, or more aptly, the black experience is anti-black violence. What else? And when I say anti-black violence, I want to make a distinction, because there's violence in the traditional physical sense of physically being violent, whether that's interpersonal or structural, right? Or versus contemporarily, we use the word, me and the youngins, we use violence. And when we say violence, it's not the traditional physical sense of violence, but more so referring to macro and microaggressions that reinforce systems of oppression, including but not excluding violence, right? So that when a non-black person touches a black person's hair, when a non-black person treats a black person in this relational dynamic, as Frank B Wilderson suggests, that this is violent because it is contributing and upholding and sustaining the status quo, which is anti-black violence and oppression, right? So out of those two, so the first thing is that slavery was not an event, but it's a relational dynamic with all black people to all non-black people, period. Two, the thing that makes black people black outside of their physical blackness is being subjected to anti-blackness because they are black. They look black, so they get treated like they are black, aka anti-blackness, right? Violence, whether that be physical, interpersonal, structural violence, or relational, macro aggression violence. And three, that that anti-black violence is so global and so foundational to not only the status quo here in America, but global society and civilization, that if true black liberation were ever achieved, the world would basically collapse. It's giving Wretched of the Earth, which I am in the middle of reading, but anyways, right? So that's what he's saying. Those are his three main points. It's like when a little kid tells you smell bad or that you're ugly. That's it. There is no solution. What he's saying is true, specifically in America, which is why I think this was the perfect book for me to kind of get my brain juices going, flowing with the 2024 election, was that America, I don't think most people, black or non-black, most Americans, black or non-black, right, are ready to really accept this reality of blackness, of what it means. What does black liberation mean to black people and to non-black people? What does that look like in real time? What is gained? What is lost? And according to Frank B Wilderson, all is lost. Fourth reason, he's right. She got washed, and Kamala got washed, and Frank ate. He's right. No matter where you go in the world, the darker you are, the worse you get treated. This is truly the epitome of intellectualizing your trauma. But anyways, and so these two things, right? Afro-pessimism and all these ideas, plus the election of, I don't even want to say it out loud, the reelection of Donald Trump. Really, more specifically, Kamala Harris's defeat. How do these two things connect, if you ask me? Well, since you're asking me, if you critically examine, right, the United States of America, the history of this country, stolen land forcibly worked by stolen people, right? The Electoral College, aka the Three-Fifths Compromise, right? You have stolen land, stolen people, forced labor, the 13th Amendment that outlaws slavery unless you're convicted of a crime. Most of the prison, and you have the school to prison, preschool, even school to prison pipeline, right? The majority of prisoners being black and brown people. If you are convicted of a felony, you lose the right to vote. This has been centuries and generations in the work, in the work, right? Like in the working, I don't know, whatever, right? This is not, if we're honest with ourselves, right? And not just as Americans, but as black folks globally, as black Americans, if we're honest with ourselves, of course he won. You take that, right? That's the container, if you will. The United States container, right? And you put in Donald Trump and you add Kamala Harris, a black and South Asian, quite literally a black and brown, a biracial woman who had to drop out of the 2020 elections because she couldn't make it. She got washed in. Got chosen by Makes Obama, Joe Biden, the vice president, for the identity politic vote. This might be the stereotypical American president. But, right? Not only could she not win in 2020, But she wouldn't concede her policies to the constituents that she was trying to guilt trip and fear monger into voting for her, right? You take all that, and I'm so sorry, but it's giving. This is understanding, accepting, and admitting to ourselves that this was the temperature check of America. This was the reality check. This was the example of the culture of this society, of this environment, that we live in the heart of the imperialism. And that no matter how you dress it up, there's a relational dynamic between us, cop or not, vice president or not, politician or not, rich or not, a relational dynamic, right? Between black folks everywhere and non-black folks everywhere. And that when push comes to shove, it might not be out of a coconut tree, but girl, you gonna get washed. That's it. This leaves me with one final question. If Einstein was right when he said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, what are we gonna do? Even insofar as how we black folk relate to others and allow others to relate to us. Thank you for watching, especially if you got this far. I appreciate it. Comment. Don't get funny, but comment, like, subscribe. And remember who you are. Ashe. Peace.